Welcome back to another production breakdown video. I'm going to be talking about the project I did for some of the guys at T-Rex Arms. Chad reached out to me because he was working on a project for Vertx, and he asked me to do the music. So I did it, and he sent me a reference track to start off, and that's kind of what all this was based off of. They just wanted more energy and excitement, I guess might be a good word for it. So I've already done this video once, but I'm going to have to do it again because some of the settings were off. And so here we go. It be what it be. The great thing about this microphone is there's a really loud weed whacker right there. You can't even hear it. So this song starts out with some nice pads and soundscape type things. So this is Metallic Fireflies in Alchemy. Really pretty. Then we got some like breeze, wind type thing going on here with this. A couple more things. This little, this one, it's just got some movement in it. It's really cool. So that's it. And then we get into verse 1, basically. This is the primary synth you hear. It's like a gated Alchemy synth again. I used Alchemy a bunch. Alchemy and Serum on this project with some strings. Bass. I've been loving this bass. This is a Serum bass. Got it from this pack that I found somewhere. I don't even know where. But this bass is so full and it just smacks. And then we have a little bit of drums. Got this like heartbeat kick with SE drums to provide a little underlying movement. This is verse 1. This is the video. We might talk about this a little bit. I got this like halfway through working on it. Chad sent it over, so I had a reference, which really helped me with the last half of the project. But I don't know how much we'll talk about that. We'll hide it for now. Then we go into a section that sounds like Marvel. So this section kind of builds really quickly to give a taste of what's coming, and it's just a few strings. These are Logic strings that I used. SE strings. And then this little detuned synth thing, which sounds really gross by itself. And I think this is actually I'm 99% sure this is this is what I used to make the Tenet track that I did for T-Rex. I used that same sound. It's just some different settings and adjustments and effects. Little pro tip, and this may not be a pro tip at all actually, but a personal tip. This is what I do. I try to avoid automation often. Not that I try to avoid it, but in some circumstances, I like to just duplicate a track and then bump the volume if all I need is a volume adjustment. It's just easier for me, and it gives me what I feel like is more control. At least in the as I'm producing process, less so in the mixing process. But anyway, neither here nor there. Effects are gonna be, and effects is just what I call all my sweeps and swishes and impacts. Those are going to be really big and important in this project. We're going to talk about them. They just, as you can tell, get increasingly more chaotic and expansive, but incredibly important in this project, and they play a really big role. So after this whole section kind of builds, play the drums real quick. These start to build a little bit. The heartbeat picks up. We get to some choppy These are SE drums again, which I've just bounced them out because it kind of uses a lot of CPU sometimes. So, but it's just one of these guys. After we get through this section, we come to a little turnaround interlude type thing. The metallic fireflies come back, and then we have this new glitchy alchemy thing, which is pretty cool. And then again, we just have the heartbeat kick still going. Then this bass comes in. I believe this is automated. Yeah, oh, the distortion. And then it goes into verse 2. And I love that. This is probably one of my favorite things. The distortion level is just perfect. The melody is really cool. It feels exciting and eerie mixed with this. The sweeping waves come back in. Got some SE drums, bass, drums, and then throw these effects in. So in this verse 2 section, it just kind of slowly starts building up to the climax of the whole track. And so I added just a few little elements here and there that kind of add to the, because it's all the same chord progressions and very similar melodies. So like this little thing and this, which is actually a bass, but up many octaves and messed with. And it kind of sounds like a siren. And this whole project is like there's a sense of urgency. There's like a lot of it is a response to something, like someone's rendering medical aid and people are responding to things or dealing with emergencies. And so having this little siren in here is just thematically pulls all that together. It starts building. We got a bunch of big drum hits and stuff. Let me just play these effects real quick. Those brams and hits are super important for cinematic type music. Speaking of brams, this one I gotta play for you. So cute. Very cute. That's just a splice sample I think I threw in here from this pack. That's what it's called, if you want to find it. Or don't, because it's mine. It's not actually. So this just starts to build a bunch. I think what I'm going to do is play this outro section, and then we're going to play the subcategory. So we'll mute the lead instruments and listen to it. Then we'll mute everything else and listen to just the lead instruments. So you can kind of see what your ears pick up and hear personally. So let's just listen to it as is real quick. So that's what the rest of the track sounds like altogether, but let's mute the leads. And a trick to tell if you got a good song, there's two tricks. If it's a pop song, play it on acoustic guitar or a piano, and that's the only instrument, play that. If it's good, then it's good. without all the production. If you're doing like cinematic type stuff, what I like to do is mute certain chunks of like the lead instruments, for example, which we're going to do now, and just listen to the bass, drums, and effects and see if we have a good foundation. That's pretty cool. The rhythms are tight. It feels like it's driving forward. There's something going on. Now let's solo just the lead instruments. It's going to sound super thin and obviously not full because there's no bass or drums or anything like that. But we're focusing on the chords and the melodies and some of the textures you hear / feel. So apart, they don't sound particularly special, but when you put them all together, it all really works really well. But it's a good way to see what's going on and identify either things that are lacking or things that are overpowering, things that are just unnecessary. I've heard it said that Kanye West is really good at that. He'll come into a writing session and pull up the project and sit down, and all he'll do is go through and just mute different tracks. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, that's so good. How'd you do that? He's like, I just got rid of unnecessary stuff. We've talked about this a lot in these production breakdown videos of how important simplicity is and how difficult it is sometimes to be simple and keep things simple without being boring or lazy. So let's open back up some of these instruments. We'll go through some of these sounds. This was a lot of fun because I played a lot with the effects, and as I was building these chords and like messing around with harmonies of different instruments, it was a lot of just fun. Like there was no rhyme or reason to it. It was like, cool, this is the video inspiration that I have, and like, let's just make something that feels exciting. Feels like a Call of Duty video game or a Marvel movie or whatever. And so it's just a lot of just like pressing buttons and making sounds, and it just really happened organically. But some of those sounds are, we'll isolate some of them. Strings, this big bram here. This thing, even though it's quiet, there's so much there's so much energy in it. And it adds a lot. More strings, silky violins through decent sampler. I got these from, this is a free pack, by the way, from Venus Theory on YouTube. He is a YouTube creator. He's a full-time, professional music composer, and he creates, what am I trying to say? He's a sound designer. He creates sounds. Very cool dude. I've learned a lot from his YouTube channel, but he this is his sound pack, and it's really, these strings are really pretty. Got some more of them here. And then we just got crazy risers and effects like this stuff. In fact, let's just listen to the effects real quick. We're going to solo effects. Cool. It's just very movie trailer-esque, which I love because movie trailers are dope. That's basically it. I don't think there's a whole lot to dive into here. other than like you've seen it, you've seen what's going on. Um, I don't know that there's any further value I could bring. I do want to briefly thank Chad from T-Rex for inviting me in to do this project. There was a lot of creative hands on deck for this video in particular, and I'm glad I got to play a role in it. And obviously, the whole Vertx team with launching the actual product itself, there's lots of hands on deck. So I got to play a very small part in this project, but I'm very grateful that Chad invited me into it and trusted me creatively to bring the music to life. This was one of the more fun projects that I've done, which most of the projects I do are a lot of fun for me. So, but there's something about this one that was just really cool to score, a lot of this track to the video itself, which the video is incredible. I'm assuming Charles worked on this as well. Actually, I know Charles worked on this, and it's just the storytelling is really amazing. The shots are really cool, and so it was cool to create music to something like that. And what I would highly recommend, if you're a creative of any sort, is create things to or accompanying someone else's creative work, because oftentimes it'll break up your own pattern of creativity and force you to think differently or do things that you wouldn't usually do. And that's what happened in this outro for me. This would have been very different if I hadn't had that video to go off of. Because it made me think differently about things and forced me. And sometimes being forced into a box is actually really helpful, because you can be within a box and have like certain restrictions. Like, for example, time restrictions as you're scoring to a video. It can help you create things that you wouldn't usually create, because you're thinking in only musical terms and, oh, well, this has to be 4 measures long in order for it to loop or whatever, and you end up doing something that's totally different, just because it matches the video well. So sometimes being confined to another person's creative vision, and confined isn't the right word, but sometimes working alongside of someone else's creative vision is really helpful and beneficial, because it gets you outside of your own comfort zone or box of complacency. With that said, I'm just going to play this and let it play through. We're going to listen to it, and that'll be the video.